The rain fell hard that night. Cold silver drops hit the old metal bridge, echoing softly through the dark valley below. The sky was a mix of black clouds and flashing blue lightning. Every few seconds, the light revealed a tall, thin figure standing near the edge of the bridge. It was Lyra, an alien woman. Her skin shimmered faintly under the storm, light blue with tiny glowing lines that looked like stars under her skin. Her white hair was wet, sticking to her face. She didn't move much. Only her fingers trembled as she held the metal railing tightly. Beneath the bridge, a deep river rushed through the darkness. The water looked endless, wild, and hungry. Lyra stared down into it, her eyes empty, her heart even emptier. She whispered something in her own language, a few broken words that the wind carried away. Then she closed her eyes. For a moment she felt peaceful. No more rejection, no more pain, no more loneliness. Her life had been nothing but a long punishment for something she could never control. Her people, the Alarans, believed that a woman's worth came from her ability to give life. But Lyra could not. She was born infertile, unable to bear children. To the Alarans, that made her lifeless, a curse. They had cast her out, stripped her of her home, her honor, her future. She had tried to live alone in the human colony, far away from her kind. But the looks, the whispers, the pity, it all followed her like a shadow. Tonight she couldn't bear it anymore. She had come to the old bridge to end everything. The rain poured harder. Lightning cracked across the sky. Lyra stepped closer to the edge. The metal creaked under her weight. Her reflection shimmered on the wet surface, fragile, ghost-like. She took one deep breath, preparing to jump. Then, "Don't jump!" The voice was sharp, human, and desperate. Lyra froze. Slowly, she turned her head. A man was running through the rain toward her. He was tall, wearing a soaked jacket, his dark hair plastered to his forehead. His boots splashed in the puddles as he ran. His breath came out in white clouds. He stopped a few feet away, lifting a hand. "Please," he said, voice breaking slightly. "Step back. The bridge is slippery." Lyra stared at him, her eyes glowing faintly under the stormlight. "Why do you care?" she asked softly. Her voice sounded musical, yet full of pain. "You don't even know me." The man took another cautious step forward. "Maybe not," he said, "but no one deserves to die alone in the rain." Lyra looked away. "You wouldn't understand. My life means nothing. My people, I don't care what your people think," the man said quickly. His tone wasn't angry, but full of something else, truth. "You're here. You're breathing. That's enough reason to matter." For a moment, only the sound of the rain filled the space between them. Lyra's hand tightened around the railing. The river below roared louder, like it wanted to swallow her whole. "I can't go back," she whispered. "There's nothing left for me." The man took another step. "Then start somewhere else. Start tonight, just not like this." Lyra's lips trembled. Her mind told her to ignore him. But something in his voice, his tone, his warmth, broke through the cold inside her. She turned to face him completely. The wind pushed her hair back, revealing her glowing silver eyes. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "You should leave." "Let me go," he shook his head. "I can't," he said simply. "Because I've seen this before." His voice softened. "My wife stood like that once, before she jumped. I couldn't reach her in time." The words hit her like a blade. For the first time, she saw his pain behind his tired eyes. He wasn't some random stranger. He was a man carrying his own scars. Lyra's knees weakened. She looked back at the river one last time. The storm reflected her own chaos. She whispered something in Alaran again, then stepped back. The man reached forward and gently took her arm. His hand was warm despite the cold rain. "You're safe now," he said softly. Lyra didn't reply. She was shaking, not from the cold, but from everything she'd just felt. The two stood there for a long time, rain pouring over them, thunder rolling in the distance. Finally, he said, "Let's get out of the storm. There's a small place nearby. You can dry off." Lyra hesitated. Trust wasn't easy, but she was too tired to fight anymore. Slowly she nodded. He gave a small smile. "Good," he said. "My name's Evan Carter." Lyra blinked, her glowing eyes softening. "Lyra," she whispered. Together they walked off the bridge, two lost souls crossing not just metal and rain, but the thin line between despair and hope. Behind them, the river kept roaring, but it no longer called her name. The storm had ended by the time they reached the edge of the colony. Only a soft drizzle fell from the gray sky, and the streetlights glowed weakly through the mist. The colony was quiet. Most humans were asleep at this hour. Evan walked slowly beside Lyra, keeping a gentle distance. He could see how tired she was. Her steps were uneven, her eyes half closed. The blue light under her skin was dim now, almost fading. "You okay?" he asked softly. Lyra nodded weakly, but her lips were pale. "I just need rest," she whispered. Evan's house wasn't far. It was small, built from metal and wood, sitting at the edge of the colony where the desert met the sky. When they reached the door, he pressed his hand against the scanner. The door hissed open and warm yellow light spilled out. "Come in," he said, stepping aside. Lyra hesitated. No human had ever invited her into their home before. For a second, she thought it was a trick, a cruel one. But when she looked at Evan's face, she saw no lies there. Only quiet kindness. She stepped inside. The warmth hit her first. The air smelled like coffee and old books. Small machines hummed softly around the room. On one wall, a drawing was pinned. A child's drawing of a human man holding hands with a smaller figure under a bright sun. Lyra tilted her head. "You have a child?" she asked. Evan nodded. "Yeah, my daughter Mira. She's asleep in the next room." As he spoke, he grabbed a towel and handed it to her. "Here, dry off before you freeze." Lyra took the towel slowly, almost afraid to touch it. Her long fingers brushed the soft fabric. It had been years since anyone had offered her something with simple care. "Thank you," she said quietly. "No problem." Evan moved to the kitchen and started heating water. "You want tea? Or something warm?" Lyra blinked. "Tea?" The word sounded strange in her mouth. He smiled faintly. "It's what humans drink when they don't know what else to do." That made her lips curve just slightly. A small, fragile smile that disappeared almost at once. When the tea was ready, they sat across from each other at the small table. Lyra cupped the mug in both hands, feeling its heat soak into her palms. She didn't drink, just watched the steam rise. "You said your people cast you out," Evan said gently. "Why?" She was silent for a long time. The rain tapped against the windows. Then she spoke, her voice low. "Because I can't give life. On my world, females who cannot bear children are seen as broken, worthless. I tried to prove them wrong. I worked harder than anyone, but it didn't matter. I was told I bring shame just by existing." Evan's chest tightened. He didn't know what to say. He had seen cruelty before, but this was something else. "That's wrong," he said softly. "You're not broken." Lyra looked at him, her eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. "You don't understand. Among the Alorans, the ability to create life is everything. Without it, I'm nothing." He leaned forward slightly. "Among humans," he said, "life isn't measured that way. We make meaning through what we do, not what we're born for." She studied him carefully, as if trying to see if he meant it. Humans were strange to her, so fragile, yet they always fought to live. After a long silence, Lyra finally whispered, "Why did you save me, Evan?" He took a slow breath. "Because no one saved my wife," he said quietly. "Years ago, she couldn't handle the colony life, the pressure, the loneliness. I tried to help, but I was too late." His voice trembled slightly. "I saw you on that bridge, and for a second I thought I was watching her again." Lyra's eyes softened. She didn't know what to say. "I'm sorry," she murmured. Evan gave a weak smile. "You don't have to be. Just promise me you won't go back there again." Lyra looked down into her cup. The reflection of her glowing eyes shimmered in the tea. She wasn't sure she could promise that. But for tonight, she nodded. "I'll try." At that moment, a small sound came from the other room. A door creaked open. Tiny footsteps patted on the metal floor. "Daddy?" A small human girl appeared, rubbing her eyes. Her dark hair was messy, and she wore a blanket like a cape. When she saw Lyra, her eyes went wide. "Daddy, who's that?" she asked in a sleepy voice. Evan smiled gently. "This is Lyra. She's a friend." Lyra's heart skipped. A friend? No one had called her that before. The little girl walked closer, curious but not afraid. "Are you from the stars?" she asked, pointing at the glowing lines under Lyra's skin. Lyra nodded slowly. "Yes, from very far away." The girl smiled brightly. "That's cool." She reached out and touched one of the glowing marks on Lyra's arm. It pulsed softly like it recognized her warmth. Lyra froze, but instead of pain, she felt something warm spread through her chest. For the first time in years, someone had touched her without fear. Evan watched them quietly. In that small moment, something shifted in the air. The alien who wanted to die now sat in a stranger's home, holding tea with a child smiling up at her like she was a star. And maybe, just maybe, that was the start of something new. Morning light crept through the thin curtains of Evan's small house. The storm had passed, leaving behind clear skies and the soft hum of the colony waking up. Outside, machines rumbled to life and traders opened their market stalls. Inside, the house was quiet. Only the smell of breakfast filled the air, bread warming on a small heat plate and the soft hiss of a kettle. Lyra sat at the table, staring out the window. The sunlight made her skin shimmer like liquid glass. She had borrowed one of Evan's shirts. It hung loosely around her shoulders. Her long silver hair was dry now, glowing faintly in the light. Across from her, little Mira sat eating fruit slices, kicking her legs under the table. Every few seconds, she glanced up at Lyra with curious eyes. "You eat like us?" Mira asked suddenly. Lyra blinked. "Not always," she said softly. "But I can." "Good," the girl said cheerfully. "Because Daddy says if someone eats breakfast with us, it means they're family." Lyra froze. The word family hit her like a soft blade, gentle but deep. Her throat tightened, but she managed a small smile. "Your father is very kind." "Yeah," Mira said proudly. "He fixes everything. Even robots that everyone says are too broken." Evan walked in at that moment carrying a mug of tea. "She's exaggerating," he said with a grin. "Some things even I can't fix." He placed the mug in front of Lyra. "You slept almost 12 hours, he said. "Guess you needed it." "I haven't slept that long in years," she admitted quietly. "Not since before I was sent away." Mira looked confused. "Sent away from where?" Evan gave her a warning look, but Lyra shook her head gently. "It's all right," she said. "I was sent away from my home. From my people. Why?" Mira asked in a whisper. Lyra's glowing eyes darkened. For a long time she didn't speak. Then, in a voice small and broken, she said, "Because I cannot give life. My people believe a woman who cannot create life has no purpose. They called me a failure." "A mistake," Mira frowned. "That's stupid." Evan almost choked on his tea. "Mira," he said quickly, but Lyra smiled, a sad, real smile. "No," she said softly. "She's right." Mira leaned forward, her big brown eyes full of innocent honesty. "My mom went to the stars, but Daddy says people are more than what they can do. He says we're special just for being alive." Lyra looked at Evan, her gaze searching. "You told her that?" He nodded slowly. "I had to. When her mother died, I didn't know how to explain it. So I told her we honor life by living it." The room grew quiet. Outside, the wind rustled through the colony fences. Lyra's hands trembled around her cup. "Your people. You see things differently," she whispered. "Humans. You fall, you lose, but you still get up again. My people would rather die than be seen as weak." Evan leaned back in his chair. "Maybe that's your strength," he said. "You walked away. You survived. That's not weakness, Lyra, that's courage." She didn't answer, but her eyes glistened slightly. Later that day, Evan went to work at the colony's power grid station. Lyra stayed behind, helping Mira with her small projects. The little girl showed her drawings, toys, and even a tiny robot she'd built from spare parts. Lyra watched her with quiet wonder. "You create life from machines," she said softly. "You make things live," Mira laughed. "Daddy says I got that from Mom. She used to fix drones. I just add glitter." That made Lyra laugh, a small musical sound that filled the room. It was the first real laugh she'd had in years. But when Mira went outside to play, Lyra's smile faded. She stood by the window staring at her reflection. Her eyes were bright, but the light behind them was cracked. She touched her stomach gently. A long, faint scar glowed under her skin, remnants of the tests her people had done on her, trying to fix her. The memories flooded back. Cold metal tables, harsh voices. The word useless whispered again and again. She pressed her forehead to the glass and whispered, "Maybe they were right." But from outside came the sound of Mira's laughter, and something inside her heart shifted again. That sound, it was pure human alive. Something she thought she could never be part of. She stepped outside. Mira was sitting in the dirt, building small figures from scrap metal. When she saw Lyra, she smiled. "Look, I made you," Lyra knelt down. In Mira's hands was a tiny figure with blue glass beads for eyes and thin wires for hair. It was fragile but made with love. "Do you like it?" Mira asked, eyes shining. Lyra's throat tightened. Yes, she said softly. Very much. Then you have to promise you'll stay, Mira said seriously. Daddy said people who leave make hearts hurt. Lyra looked into the little girl's face. No one had ever asked her to stay before. Not her kind. Not anyone. She swallowed hard and nodded. I'll stay, she whispered. Evan returned home that evening and found them both asleep on the couch, Mira resting on Lyra's lap, and Lyra's hand gently covering the child's head. For the first time, the house felt full again, warm, alive. And though Lyra didn't know it yet, this small, human family was beginning to heal a wound that even her own people could never mend. The next few weeks passed quietly, almost peacefully. Lyra had begun to smile more often. She helped Evan repair old machines, cleaned the garden with Mira, and even learned to cook simple human meals. The once cold, silent alien now laughed softly at Mira's jokes and watched sunsets with wonder. For the first time in years, she felt alive, but peace never lasts long on the edges of human space. It began one evening when the sky turned red. A strange hum filled the air, low, deep, and unnatural. The birds fled the colony towers, and every power light flickered for a moment before going dim. Evan looked up from the workshop. That's not a storm, he muttered. Lyra froze. She knew that sound. She had heard it before, on her homeworld before the exile ships came. The noise of Alaran war drones. Her eyes widened, glowing brighter with fear. Evan, we need to hide. Before he could ask why, a bright flash tore across the sky. 3 silver crafts appeared, cutting through the clouds like blades. They moved silently, scanning the colony with blue light. Mira ran outside, holding her toy robot. Daddy, look! Spaceships! She said, excited. Evan grabbed her quickly and pulled her close. Inside, now! Lyra stood still, trembling. She could feel their presence, their minds brushing against hers like cold wind. They were searching for her. Lyra, Evan said urgently. What's happening? She turned to him, voice shaking. They've come for me, my people. They found me. Evan's jaw tightened. Why would they come all this way? To finish what they started, she whispered. They don't allow exiles to live. My survival shames them. He stared at her for a moment, then glanced at Mira. The little girl clung to his arm, frightened by the look in Lyra's eyes. Evan took a deep breath. All right, he said firmly. Then we'll keep you safe, Lyra blinked. You don't understand. They'll destroy this colony if they know I'm here. Then we won't let them find out, he said simply. I've hidden people before. I can do it again. Without waiting, he grabbed a small device from the wall, a signal jammer, and handed it to her. Follow me. They moved quickly through the back tunnels of the colony. The ground shook as one of the Alaran crafts passed overhead, scanning the area. Blue light swept through the streets, turning sand and dust into glowing mist. They reached the old maintenance shafts under the colony. The tunnels were dark, filled with the smell of metal and oil. Evan opened a small hatch leading to a secret chamber he had built years ago, a place he used to store tools and parts. In here, he said. Lyra hesitated. You'd risk your life for me? Evan looked at her seriously. You risked yours to save mine from that bridge. I'm just returning the favor. She stepped inside, clutching the jammer close. Mira followed, holding Lyra's hand tightly. From above, the sound of engines grew louder. Then came the voice, cold, metallic, and terrifyingly familiar. Alaran fugitive detected. Submit or the colony will be purged. Lyra's hands shook. They'll kill everyone, she said. They don't make threats, they keep them. Evan's eyes darted to the control board beside the tunnel. Not if I can help it. He pulled out a small data chip. This powers the colony's defense grid. It hasn't worked for years, but if I reroute it manually, I might be able to fry their sensors. You'll be caught, Lyra said. He smiled grimly. Probably. But I'm human. We're stubborn that way. Before she could stop him, he climbed the ladder and disappeared into the noise above. Lyra crouched beside Mira, heart pounding. She wanted to go after him, but she knew she couldn't. The jammer in her hand was the only thing keeping them hidden. Minutes felt like hours. Then the ground shook violently. Outside, bright flashes of light lit up the tunnels. The colony's old defense cannons roared to life for the first time in decades. Lyra felt the energy of the battle, machines burning, drones falling, the air thick with static and smoke. She closed her eyes and reached out with her mind. For the first time in years, she dared to use her Alaran power. She found Evan, his mind steady, focused, alive. He was fighting. And then she felt something else, a memory, distant but strong. A child's cry. Her own voice once begging for mercy. The same cruelty that had broken her now filled her people above. Something inside her snapped. Lyra stood up suddenly. Her eyes glowed white. "Stay here," she told Mira. The child grabbed her hand. "Don't go," she whispered. Lyra smiled softly, brushing Mira's hair aside. "I have to. If I don't, they'll hurt your father." Before Mira could answer, Lyra climbed the ladder and stepped into the storm of light and sound. The sky was burning. Drones circled overhead and humans were running for cover. Evan was near the power hub trying to reconnect the grid. His face was covered in dust and blood. Lyra raised her hands. A blue wave of energy burst from her body, knocking the nearest drones out of the sky. The remaining crafts turned toward her. Evan looked up, eyes wide. "Lyra?" She turned to him, voice strong and steady. "I won't let them hurt your people." And for the first time, she wasn't running anymore, she was fighting. The sky burned like fire above the colony. Alaran drones moved in perfect formation, shining silver under the blood-red clouds. Each hum in the air felt like a heartbeat counting down to destruction. Evan stood near the main power hub, his hands shaking as he reconnected wires and override switches. Sparks flew as old circuits woke from years of silence. Come on," he muttered under his breath. Behind him, the ground rumbled. The first drone landed, its long legs stabbing into the dirt. Its metallic head turned toward him, glowing blue eyes locking on target. Then, a flash of light. Lyra appeared between Evan and the drone. Her eyes blazed like white fire, her body glowing with energy that pulsed through her veins. With a single wave of her hand, a surge of blue lightning shot from her fingertips, slamming into the machine. It exploded in a shower of sparks, crashing to the ground. Evan shielded his face from the blast.
How did you do that?"
Lyra didn't answer. Her voice echoed with power she had long forgotten she had. "They wanted to destroy me for being useless," she said quietly. "But I was never useless. I was only afraid." More drones appeared, crawling down from the ships above. Lyra's glow grew brighter, wrapping her like a storm. She moved with speed and grace, her energy forming shields of light that deflected laser fire. Evan joined the fight from behind her, using his tools and makeshift EMP grenades to short out the smaller drones. Together, human and alien fought side by side. Two beings from different worlds bound by the same will to survive. From the rooftops, colonists began to appear, watching in disbelief. They had heard the rumors about the alien woman living with the engineer. Now they saw her standing between them and death. "She's protecting us," someone whispered. "An alien fighting for humans?" another said. Evan shouted, "Get inside. Stay low." But many stayed, helping where they could. They passed tools, moved energy cells, and guided civilians underground. The colony had become a living machine of resistance, powered by fear, but also by courage. Above them, the Alaran command ship hovered low. Its voice thundered through every speaker in the colony. "Lyra of House Vera, you stand accused of betraying your kind. Surrender now, or your human protectors will perish." Lyra looked up at the massive vessel. Her heart pounded, but her voice was calm. "You call me a traitor," she shouted. "But you betrayed life itself." The ship fired. A beam of white energy struck the ground where she stood, blasting the earth apart. Evan was thrown backward, rolling across the dirt. When the smoke cleared, Lyra still stood. A glowing shield surrounded her, a dome of light that rippled like liquid glass. The attack hadn't even touched her. Evan stared in awe. "You're unstoppable." Lyra's glow dimmed slightly, her face pale. "Not unstoppable," she said weakly. "Just tired of running." She turned toward him. "I need your help. If we overload the power grid, we can send an electromagnetic pulse through the colony's shield. It will knock out their sensors long enough for everyone to escape." Evan blinked. "That'll fry the whole system. The colony will lose power for weeks." Lyra smiled faintly. "Better dark than dead." He hesitated for a second, then nodded. "All right. Let's do it." They ran toward the control tower together, dodging falling debris. The smell of burning metal filled the air. Every few seconds, Lyra sent another wave of energy skyward, keeping the drones at bay. Inside the control room, sparks rained down from broken lights. Evan worked fast, typing on the cracked console, connecting the power lines manually. Lyra placed her hands on the core, her energy feeding directly into the system. "Ready?" he shouted. "Do it!" Evan slammed the final switch. The entire colony went dark. For one long second, there was only silence. Then a massive surge of blue light exploded outward, flooding the sky like a second sunrise. The drones froze mid-air, their lights flickering before shutting down completely. The Alaran ship above trembled. Its sensors blinked out. The great machine began to drift away, blind and powerless. The colonists erupted into cheers. Some cried. Others fell to their knees in relief. Evan turned to Lyra. Her glow was fading fast. She was on her knees, trembling, her hand still pressed to the power core. "Lyra!" he shouted, running to her. She looked up at him weakly. "It worked," she whispered. "They're gone. For now." He caught her before she fell. "You saved everyone," he said, his voice thick with emotion. She smiled faintly. "No, we did." Her body went still in his arms, her light slowly dimming until only faint sparks danced under her skin. Evan held her tightly, the night sky flickering with the last bits of static. Around them, the colony was alive, damaged, but safe. And as he looked at the quiet face of the alien who had given everything to protect a world not her own, Evan realized that she had become something more than a survivor. She was their protector, their light, their proof that humanity wasn't limited to humans. The night after the battle was silent. No wind, no humming drones, only the faint crackle of broken lights flickering across the ruined colony streets. Evan sat beside Lyra's motionless body in the medical shelter. Her skin was pale, the faint glow beneath her veins almost gone. The med droids had done everything possible, but her alien biology was too different. The machines didn't understand her. He sat there in silence, his hands still stained with oil and dirt. He didn't know what else to do. For hours he just stared, afraid to blink, afraid she might vanish if he looked away. Outside, people whispered her name. "Lyra saved us. The alien woman did it. She fought for us." To the colonists, she had become a symbol, the one who stood when no one else could. But to Evan, she was more than that. She was the first being who had ever seen him, really seen him. He reached out, brushing her cold hand. "You promised you'd see the sunrise," he whispered. "You can't leave before that." But there was no answer. He bowed his head, tears slipping silently onto the metal floor. Around him, the world felt too quiet, too heavy. Then a flicker. It was faint, almost invisible, like the shimmer of heat above sand. The lights in the room dimmed, and Lyra's body gave off a soft pulse of blue. Evan looked up, eyes wide. "Lyra?" Her fingers twitched. A soft hum filled the air. The monitor beside her, which had been flat-lined for hours, blinked once, twice, and came alive again. The med droids whirred in confusion, recalculating vitals they didn't recognize. Energy readings climbed rapidly, higher than before. Lyra's eyes opened. At first they glowed pure white. Then the light faded, revealing her usual deep silver irises, brighter than ever before. Evan stumbled backward, half in shock, half in disbelief. You're alive." Lyra sat up slowly, looking at her hands. Her skin shimmered faintly, alive with energy. "I heard you," she said softly. "You were calling me." He blinked. "I didn't. I thought you couldn't hear me." Lyra smiled faintly. "I heard everything. Every word. I was falling into the dark, and your voice pulled me back." Outside, the dawn light was starting to spill over the horizon. The clouds glowed orange and gold, the first sunrise the colony had seen without fear. Evan helped her stand. She was weak, but something about her felt different. Her presence was warmer, her glow steady but gentle, not wild like before. "What happened to you?" he asked, still stunned. "I think, when I used my power, something changed inside me," she said. "The energy didn't just burn me, it became part of me. My body adapted." She placed her hand on the wall. Instantly, the cracked metal began to seal itself, smooth and whole again. Evan's jaw dropped. "You can heal metal now?" Lyra laughed softly. "Not just metal. Anything alive with energy." She paused, her voice lowering. "Maybe even a dying world." Word spread quickly that Lyra had awakened. Within an hour, people gathered outside the shelter. Men, women, and children from every corner of the colony. They wanted to see her, to thank her, to believe again. When she stepped outside, sunlight hit her face and the crowd gasped. The alien who once hid from everyone now stood tall, her silver hair shining like morning frost. A little girl broke from the crowd and ran up to her. "Miss Lyra, are you going to leave us now?" Lyra knelt down, smiling gently. "No, little one. I'm staying. We have a lot to rebuild." The girl hugged her tightly, and for the first time in a long while, Lyra didn't flinch. Evan stood nearby, watching as the people surrounded her, some offering food, others flowers made from recycled wire and scraps. The same colonists who once feared her now looked at her with love and gratitude. Later, as the sun climbed higher, Lyra and Evan climbed to the top of the old communication tower. From there, they could see the entire colony, damaged but alive, full of movement and laughter. Lyra spoke quietly. "When I first came here, I thought I had nothing left. My people rejected me. My purpose was gone." Evan looked at her. "And now?" She smiled softly. "Now I know. I was sent here not to die, but to live, to find something worth protecting." He chuckled. "You found it." She turned to him, her eyes shining. "No, we found it." They stood there together as the golden light washed over the colony, the ruins glowing like polished stone. In that moment, for the first time since the invasion began, the world didn't feel broken anymore. The miracle wasn't just that Lyra came back to life. It was that humanity, both alien and human, had found each other again. And as the sunrise spread across the horizon, Lyra whispered something only Evan could hear. "Maybe this is what home feels like." He smiled, his eyes wet with quiet joy. "Yeah," he said softly. "Maybe it is." Weeks passed since the great battle. The colony was healing, piece by piece, light by light. Fields were being cleared again, walls rebuilt stronger than before, and laughter began returning to streets that once echoed with fear. At the center of it all was Lyra. Her touch could heal machines, grow crops faster, and even repair human wounds. The colonists began to call her the Star Healer. To the children, she was a hero. To the elders, a legend come alive. But Lyra didn't feel like a legend. Every time she looked up at the sky, she felt a pull, a whisper from the stars. Something was coming. One morning, as the new sun rose over the rebuilt colony, Evan found her standing at the edge of the fields, staring at the horizon. "You're thinking again," he said, smiling softly. She didn't look at him. "I feel them," she whispered. "My people. They're coming back." Evan's smile faded. "The Alarans?" Lyra nodded slowly. "Yes, they won't forgive what I did and or who I saved." He stepped closer. "Then we'll fight again. Together." Lyra turned to him, her eyes filled with both love and sorrow. "If they come, it won't be like before. They'll send more ships. They'll burn everything to find me." Evan's voice was firm. "Then they'll have to go through all of us." But Lyra shook her head. "This isn't your fight anymore. I can't let this world suffer because of me." Before he could argue, the ground trembled. The morning sky darkened as a massive shadow stretched across the land. A ship, far larger than the first, descended through the clouds, its hull glowing with deep violet light. The Alaran royal crest burned across its surface. Lyra's heart tightened. She knew that symbol. It was the High Command, the ruling council of her species, and once her own family. The ship hovered silently for a moment. Then a voice boomed from the skies, clear and cold. "Lyra of House Vera, you have defied the will of your blood. You have tainted your power by saving human life. Surrender now and the colony will be spared." Lyra's eyes burned with anger and sadness. "They're lying," she said. "They never spare anyone." The colonists began gathering, fear spreading like wildfire. Children hid behind walls. Workers dropped their tools. Evan stepped forward, standing beside her. "Then we don't surrender." Lyra looked at him for a long moment. "Evan, if I do this, I may never come back." He met her gaze, voice steady. "You've already given us life. If this is what you must do, then do it. But don't forget, you're not alone anymore." Tears glimmered in her eyes. "Thank you for showing me what humanity means." Then with a soft glow spreading through her hands, she rose into the air. The energy around her shimmered like living starlight. The Alaran ship opened fire, beams of plasma raining down. But before they could touch the ground, Lyra raised her arms and the air rippled with blinding light. The beams bent, twisting harmlessly into the sky. Her voice echoed across the colony, calm but powerful. No more death. No more fear. You taught me to live in light. Now I will show them its power. The sky turned blue-white as her energy expanded outward. It wasn't violent. It was pure, warm. Every creature felt it deep in their hearts. Inside the ship, the Alaran commanders shouted orders, but their systems failed. Lyra's energy was rewriting everything, dismantling weapons, disabling engines, melting metal into harmless dust. Evan shielded his eyes as the light grew brighter. "Lyra!" he shouted. She looked down one last time. Her voice carried softly through the wind. "Don't be afraid." And then she vanished, her body dissolving into radiant particles that danced across the sky. The massive ship froze midair, its engines collapsing inward, and then it simply disappeared. No explosion, no wreckage, just silence. Moments later, the light faded, leaving behind a peaceful dawn. The air was warm again. The birds began to sing. Evan fell to his knees, tears running down his face. Around him, the colonists slowly emerged from hiding, looking up in awe. One little boy whispered, "Where did she go?" Evan smiled weakly. She became the light. From that day onward, when the sun rose each morning, a faint silver shimmer glowed at its edge, like a star that never faded. People said it was Lyra watching over them. Others believed she had become part of the planet itself, its new protector. Years later, the colony thrived. The children grew up hearing stories of the alien who saved humanity. And whenever someone felt hopeless, they would look up at the shimmering sunrise and whisper her name. One day, as Evan grew older and his hair turned gray, he walked once more to the same bridge where he'd first found her. The bridge where it all began. He smiled at the sunrise and said softly, "Don't jump, Lyra. You finally made it home." The wind blew gently across the valley, carrying a faint whisper, one only he could hear. "Thank you for saving me first." And for a brief moment he saw her standing in the light, smiling free. Then the sun rose fully golden and bright, and the colony's new day began. A day born from the courage of a human and the heart of an alien, who learned what it truly meant to be alive.